The Indian star tortoise is native to South Asia, with its natural range stretching across India, Sri Lanka, and parts of Pakistan. Within India, it is most commonly found in the dry regions of the western and southern states, including Rajasthan, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and parts of Karnataka and Odisha. Its distribution also overlaps with areas of human settlement, where it sometimes appears in farmlands, temple gardens, and village outskirts, although these are not always safe habitats for them. These tortoises thrive in environments that are generally warm and seasonally dry. Their preferred habitats include scrub forests, semi-arid grasslands, and thorny shrublands. They are also found in dry deciduous forests where scattered vegetation provides both shelter and open spaces for movement. The ground in these regions is often sandy or rocky, which suits their burrowing and hiding behaviors. They adapt well to seasonal changes, tolerating both hot, dry summers and monsoon rains, as long as they can find shelter and avoid prolonged flooding. In Sri Lanka, the Indian star tortoise is mainly found in the northern dry zones and coastal plains, where there is a mix of scrubland and grassland. In Pakistan, they inhabit the drier southeastern regions bordering India, where vegetation is sparse but still provides enough cover. Across their range, they tend to prefer areas where vegetation offers protection from predators and extreme temperatures, while open patches allow them access to sunlight for thermoregulation. The Indian star tortoise is named for its striking and unique shell pattern. Its upper shell is usually dark brown to almost black, with bright yellow or golden radiating lines that form a star-like pattern on each scute, the individual plates. This design is not only beautiful but also helps break up the outline of the tortoise in its natural environment, acting as camouflage among grasses and shrubs. The underside is lighter, often yellow with some darker blotches. Hatchlings tend to have brighter, more defined star markings, which may become slightly duller with age, though the overall pattern remains distinctive throughout their life. The Indian star tortoise has a highly domed shell with pronounced, almost pyramidal scuts, giving it a bumpy texture rather than a smooth curve. This shell shape, along with a unique pattern, makes the species easily recognizable. The legs are sturdy and covered in protective scales, adapted for walking over dry, uneven terrain. The head is relatively small, with a pointed beak-like mouth suitable for grazing on vegetation. Its limbs are not designed for swimming, as it is a purely terrestrial species. The size of Indian star tortoises can vary depending on their geographical location and sex. In general, adults measure between 20 and 30 centimeters in length. Females tend to be larger than males, which is typical in tortoises, with females sometimes reaching the upper end of the size range. Males are smaller and often have longer tails. Weight also varies, but most adults weigh between 1 and 2.5 kilograms, with larger females occasionally exceeding that. Hatchlings are tiny, measuring about 4 to 5 centimeters and weighing less than 50 grams at birth. A fascinating fact about the Indian star tortoise is its remarkable ability to survive long periods without water. In their natural dry habitats, water sources can be scarce for weeks or even months, so these tortoises rely on the moisture from their food and can store water in their bladder for later use. This adaptation allows them to withstand harsh drought conditions that would be fatal to many other reptiles. Another interesting trait is their tendency to remain motionless for extended periods when they feel threatened. Instead of fleeing, they tuck their head and limbs into their shell and rely on their patterned camouflage to blend into their surroundings. This behavior not only conserves energy but also makes them less noticeable to predators such as birds of prey and mongooses. The star pattern on their shell also has a surprising function beyond camouflage. It may help them roll back onto their feet if they are flipped over. The domed, high shell creates a natural pivot point, allowing them to rock side to side and regain their upright position, which is a valuable survival trait in rough terrain. Culturally, Indian star tortoises have been considered symbols of good luck and prosperity in some regions, which unfortunately has contributed to their high demand in the illegal pet trade. They are often taken from the wild to be kept in household shrines or gardens, a practice that has had a significant impact on wild populations. The Indian star tortoise is a slow-moving reptile, as expected for a terrestrial tortoise, and its speed is more about persistence than quick bursts. On average, it moves at about 0.2 to 0.5 km per hour when walking steadily. This pace is enough for it to cover the ground it needs to forage for food and find shelter, but not nearly fast enough to escape predators. Instead of speed, it relies on camouflage, its tough shell, and remaining still to avoid danger. Their movement is deliberate and energy efficient, with short steps and frequent pauses. This is partly because their high-domed shell and relatively short legs are not built for agility or rapid travel. In hot weather, they slow down even more, often moving only during the cooler parts of the day to avoid overheating. During monsoon seasons, however, they can become slightly more active and cover more ground as food and water become abundant. Although they are not fast on land, Indian star tortoises are surprisingly determined walkers. When they set out in search of food or a suitable nesting site, they can keep moving for hours at their steady pace. If flipped over by uneven terrain or a predator, their unique domed shell can help them rock back and forth to right themselves, preventing them from becoming immobile. Indian star tortoises are generally quiet creatures, and most of their communication is non-vocal, relying instead on body language and physical cues. However, they are capable of producing certain sounds, usually in specific situations. One of the most common is a gentle hissing noise, which occurs when they quickly expel air from their lungs. This hissing is not an aggressive sound but rather a defensive reaction, often made when they retract their head and limbs into the shell if startled or threatened. During mating season, males may produce grunting or squeaking sounds while courting or attempting to mount a female. These noises are often accompanied by head bobbing and other physical displays meant to attract attention. The sounds are not loud but are noticeable at close range, serving as part of their reproductive behavior. During mating season, males may produce grunting or squeaking sounds while courting or attempting to mount a female. These noises are often accompanied by head bobbing and other physical displays meant to attract attention. The sounds are not loud but are noticeable at close range, serving as part of their reproductive behavior. When under stress or being handled, some individuals may make short, breathy exhalations or faint squeals, though this is less common. Hatchlings and juveniles are even quieter, usually relying entirely on stillness and camouflage rather than vocalization to avoid danger. Overall, sound plays a very minor role in the life of the Indian star tortoise, with most interactions depending on sight, touch, and environmental cues. The Indian star tortoise is primarily herbivorous, feeding on a wide variety of plant materials found in its natural environment. In the wild, its diet consists largely of grasses, leafy greens, and low-growing plants. These tortoises are well adapted to eating tough, fibrous vegetation that many other animals might ignore, such as dry grasses and hardy weeds. This diet not only provides essential nutrients but also keeps their beaks naturally trimmed through constant grazing. They also feed on succulent plants, fallen flowers, and fruits, particularly during the rainy season when such foods are more plentiful. Seasonal changes in their habitat influence what they eat. In the dry season, they rely heavily on drought-resistant plants and grasses, while in the wetter months, they enjoy a more varied menu, including tender shoots and fresh leaves. Their digestive system is well adapted to breaking down high-fiber foods, which helps them extract maximum nutrition from limited resources. In captivity, their diet needs to mimic the wild as closely as possible to keep them healthy. This means providing a mix of grass hays, edible weeds, like dandelion leaves and clover, and dark leafy greens. Fruit should be given sparingly, as too much sugar can disrupt their digestion. A calcium-rich diet is also essential to support their strong shell growth and bone health. Unfortunately, many captive Indian star tortoises suffer from poor diets that are too rich in soft vegetables or protein, which can cause shell deformities and other health issues. Indian star tortoises have a breeding cycle that is closely tied to seasonal changes in their native habitats. In the wild, mating typically occurs just before and during the monsoon season, usually from June to September in India and Sri Lanka. The increased humidity and availability of fresh vegetation during this period seem to stimulate breeding activity. Males become more active and may travel greater distances in search of females, often displaying courtship behaviors such as circling, head bobbing, and gentle nudging. Females generally lay eggs several weeks after mating, often from the end of the monsoon into the cooler months. They dig a nest hole in loose, sandy soil using their hind legs, carefully shaping it to fit the clutch. A typical clutch contains 3 to 10 eggs, though larger females can produce slightly more. The eggs are oval and have a hard shell, and once laid, the female covers the nest and leaves. There is no parental care after laying. The incubation period is quite long, usually lasting 90 to 170 days, depending on temperature and humidity. Interestingly, the sex of the hatchlings is influenced by incubation temperature. Warmer conditions tend to produce more females, while cooler conditions produce more males. When ready to hatch, the young use a small, sharp egg tooth to break through the shell. Hatchlings emerge fully independent, relying on instinct to find food and shelter. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for even more viewing pleasure. Don't forget, like and comment. Feel free to share.